welcome to CRE8. This is episode 10, and I'm very lucky and fortunate to be here with Neyssan Falahi. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
He literally just stepped off a plane from a film festival to be here with you guys and talk about art and craft and the love for it and the hate for it and all that kind of stuff. So thanks for being here right now.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure.
Please introduce yourself.
So I'm a Swiss actor in Los Angeles. I'm I have a mixed background. My dad is from Iran and my mom is from Austria. And yeah, I've been acting for about 9 years. I started later in life, and yeah, it was great. I was at the Mill Valley Film Festival just up north of San Francisco for the US premiere of a film that I worked on for about 2 years with friends of mine.
Wow, that's a long time.
It is a long time. And I would say probably I'm happy for the first time as I was watching myself on the big screen, I was able to distance myself and just try to really enjoy what those characters, I'm one of the three main characters, whatever they're going through and and just let myself be taken by this film and the story, and I enjoyed it. And I wasn't like too judgy and saying, this is bad what I'm doing here, or.
That's really hard to do. I think we're so self-critical, like we're our own worst enemy, right? When it comes to that, like you're always kind of judging yourself. Like watching a movie and you're in it and stepping back and being able, I'll just watch it neutrally. I think that takes a lot of, I don't know, did you watch it a bunch of times to kind of just get detached? Or?
So I watched it another time on a big screen. We were in Sicily this summer, and
which you guys won also.
And right? Yeah, pretty like
best picture,
crazy best film. Yeah,
that's incredible.
At Taormina Film
Congratulations.
Festival. Yeah,
that's
thanks.
Huge.
No, that was pretty
Can
big.
you acknowledge that? That's huge.
That
How
was pretty
fun
big.
is that?
Yeah.
You guys were like VIPs, right?
We were VIPs,
incredible.
And no, the location was beautiful, and the jury was the president of the jury was Oliver Stone.
Wow,
who's,
cool.
You know, a fantastic filmmaker, and so
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was very, you know, touching and very special to see that people were touched by it and enjoy the performances and the story, and from whether it's someone who has such experience and such life in the movie making business, or someone else who's just someone who likes to go to the movies and just evade and you know.
So what's the name of your movie? What's it called?
The name of our movie is called Show Me What You Got.
Show Me What You Got. And can I watch it anywhere, or can we watch it, or
not yet?
Just
not
festivals
yet. For now, it's going through the festival's circuit, and we're hoping to get distribution hopefully soon. And that's what we're focusing on right now, is finding a distributor, and hopefully it will get a chance to be released
Netflix
or whatever.
That'd be incredible. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
2 years for it. It's an independent movie, I'm assuming,
It's
right?
an independent film. It was a very special film because the filmmaker Svetlana Svetko really wanted me and two other friends of mine to be the lead, and she wanted to use as much as our personalities and our cultural background in the film. And so we workshopped together for a couple months, and we share our ideas about those characters and what would happen and all that stuff. And based on all these discussions, they wrote a script, and then we started shooting it, and we shot in Italy, in Puglia, which is a beautiful region, and very, very friendly and generous people who just opened their doors, restaurants, museums for us to shoot for free. And then we shot the rest in Los Angeles and shot one day in Paris.
Wow. So you got to travel.
I got to travel, yeah, which is one of the things I love the most. Yeah, I ended up going to Italy twice for this film. Yeah.
I think that's the fun part of making movies and doing kind of art, right? When you
yeah, I think
it kind of takes you everywhere.
Yeah, It is.
Yeah.
Because when you work on a film or when you work on a play or something, your mind kind of travels and you think about the journey of those characters and what they've gone through, and whether it's contemporary or something that you work on that is like from the past. It gives you that opportunity, and then you're like a detective, and you make your research and you try to create this world for yourself. But when you get a chance to really travel somewhere else and be in that environment and meet different people, different mentalities, different cultures, through what you love,
right,
through your passion, is a gift.
Yeah, that's huge.
And
how fun is that?
Yeah,
that's like living your dream, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
for
beautiful.
sure.
I hope you get many more to come.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I hope so too.
So quickly, for everybody who doesn't know you very well, is this something that happens to you all the time? Like, are you able to make movies back to back and travel all the time, or did you have some sort of difficulty to get parts, or did you already work in Switzerland and you just kind of made your way over here? How did it work? What's your journey of from thinking I can become an actor to now making movies and commercials and theater pieces and doing what you love?
Yeah, no, it's been a journey for sure, and it had a lot of ups and downs for sure. I think growing up, I always dreamt of like movies and but growing up in Switzerland, I didn't think it was really possible, and also I had a fear. I had a lot of fear about the art and about being an artist, and I don't consider myself an artist, to be honest.
Why?
Because for me, I think being an artist is to really create. And even though as an actor, when I get a role and I have the script, I do create, I do bring myself to this role, but it's not the same for me as a painter or as a poet or as a filmmaker, because I don't feel like I start from scratch. And so with that in mind,
so you think an artist has to start from scratch?
For me, I feel like I feel an artist has to create from his own imagination, his own. I see it more as a statement, and I feel for me as an actor, I don't think my work is yet there. Maybe, I think there are actors that I consider artists. But I don't think I'm there yet. Would I like to be one later in my life? Sure, why not? But I feel like right now I'm more I'm a performer, and I'm a storyteller, but I don't know, I have a hard time considering myself an artist.
We had a young woman on the show who's also an actress. She's from Peru, and she said that actors are emotional athletes. That's kind of like what her teacher told her, and that's kind of like how they train. So maybe you can call yourself an athlete instead of an artist. How about that? You're already kind of like...
Sure, in a way, you do definitely for sure you have to feel, and you have to use your body and your mind as a vessel to tell a story, right. And on cue and repeatedly, and so in that sense for sure you train yourself physically and vocally, emotionally, to be able to perform and give a result, whether it's for a stage director or a filmmaker, for sure. So there is that element, and the only thing that is a little different in a way is that you don't really have, there's not like a road. And I think that's one thing that has been challenging for me, because you don't really have some people might say, oh, you should do this and do this, or you should focus on one thing, but there's not really like a rule about what's your day to day. Like a musician, I was at the festival and we saw a film about a female conductor that I didn't know about it, and it's one of the very few, like it's mostly like a man's world, but like what she was saying in the film when she was talking to musicians, like, yeah, you guys have your instrument and like every day you practice, and you know that if you don't practice every day your music sheets, when you're gonna get to the concert, it's not gonna be as great as possible. Well, for an actor, yeah, when you have a play, yeah, every day you practice your lines, you try to find new things to kind of add more depth to your role, and but outside of that is like, it's very kind of like this big ocean, and it's sometimes it's been for me very anxious and fearful to be in that place where you just kind of and it's also you constantly looking at yourself, and it's constantly this mirror to yourself, and it kind of challenges you also to be more loving and more accepting towards yourself as you explore that with other characters. And the greatest thing I feel like with this project that I worked on, because the role was so close to myself, I really understood what it meant to fight for your character. And that's what I've been getting back from the feedbacks from people, is that they've been really moved by my performance, because they really believed it, and I know, like, because that guy felt so close to me, like I fought for him, you know, and which I feel in the past in my other projects I haven't really fought as much, and that's something that I'm really grateful for. And I'm hoping that in the future I can really try to bring that more to the projects that I do, that I really care and fight, you know, to the death. And I heard that before from my teachers, but it's one thing to hear it, it's another thing to experience
when it sinks
it.
in,
Yeah. So yeah, no, it took me a while. Sorry, it's a long answer, but it took me a while to finally pursue my dream of being an actor. And
did you start in Switzerland acting, or you here?
No, I mean, my first experience was in Africa. It was in Uganda.
Nice.
And I was doing a humanitarian project with a small student organization that I was part of in Montreal when I was doing an exchange there, because I studied international relations first. And
in Switzerland?
In Switzerland, yeah, Switzerland and Canada as well. And so we went to Uganda to help orphans who lost their parents because of AIDS. And once we were there, they were shooting a brilliant film called The Last King of Scotland, with an amazing performance of Forrest Whitaker, who won an Oscar for that.
You were there at the same time?
I was there at the same time, and I had those kind of moments that I think we all need. I mean, I don't think I'm a superstitious person per se, but I always keep looking for symbols and kind of like signs, and I think we all need somehow to believe or that we're going the right direction, whether we're spiritual or not. And so suddenly, as I was going up the stairs to this youth conference that we had organized. This lady was right across from me, and she was staring at me. And I could just have gone straight because I was late up the stairs, but I was taken by her stare. And so I looked at her and I didn't know what to say. And after like a good 30 seconds of time, which felt like awkward, she came to me, right?
You guys were just looking at
each other, right? And then she came to me and said, "Hi, I'm a casting director for the film, and I need some extras, and I really need more like foreigners, to be part of like a street scene." And so I was like, "Yeah, sure, when?" And they were like, "Well, it's tomorrow." I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll make it work."
So you're in that movie?
And I mean, you can't find me, you can't see me, but I'm like, I found myself when I was in the movie theater in Switzerland at the time I got released, and I could spot myself because I knew where I was. And
how old were you?
I was, how old was I? I was like 21.
21. That was your first kind of like intro to the movie business, and you were like,
yeah,
I love this. This is so fun.
Oh wow, it was unbelievable. Like,
well, what a way to like do your first job, though. I mean, on the big screen, that's incredible. In Uganda, out of all places.
It was hilarious. Like the people were like, it was like everybody was like waving at the camera. The camera was in the car, and they were like, the guys were getting nuts, and they were like, "Stop waving at the camera, guys!" And it was, it just fired my imagination, and I felt like somehow I had kept that dormant for such a long time, and I had focused mostly on the physical side. I was like, I'm a martial artist as well, and that's my first passion, was martial arts. Because growing up, I had, and I still have that, and it's still a big challenge of mine, where I feel like I'm not necessarily able to articulate myself as well as I would like to verbally, but more physically. And so as a kid, I really felt like I needed to express myself physically, and that was how I felt good. And I was very clumsy too, so I got into martial arts at a very young age, and I saw how also through, which is an art form, the work, the time, the dedication, the discipline, everything that is required to reach a certain level of mastery. I was just so in it that I was like, I didn't see it possible to do both.
But now you're doing it, right? Now you're doing both.
Kind of.
Right.
Kind of. I mean,
but it kind of switched with the
I would say, yeah, of course, if I get a project that's more physical, then I get to dive a bit more back into my passion of martial arts. But I'm not necessarily spending as much time as I used to when I was, younger, in my like 15, 18 years old, 20. I enjoy, I'm teaching more, and I enjoy that, sharing my passion, and but I'm definitely focusing more and spending more of my free time to acting. Right.
Do you feel like that whatever you learned in martial arts, the whole focus thing and all that kind of stuff, do you feel like you can, and it's also very much about precision and like going inwards and all that kind of stuff, right? It's very like, it's a whole spiritual journey as well, being into martial arts. Do you feel like you can apply that for your acting skills? You think they go a little bit hand in hand, or do you feel like they're very separate?
No, I think they do. But it is a challenge for sure. I think for me, what I'm able a lot often from martial arts to kind of remind myself is how to detach myself from beating myself up, from being too affected by rejection, or by feeling like failing at a performance or a project.
Which you have to learn how to deal with that.
Yeah, and to be honest, you fail all the time. Yeah. You do. Yeah. But I feel like right now what I've been so yeah, it did help me, and it does help me still. And I think what I've enjoyed the most is how I've been able to use acting to color my martial arts.
Oh wow!
Yeah, because it's like the same when you practice. So you end up a lot of like training by yourself as well, and it's a lot of shadow boxing, like we say, where you're just going over your technique, right? But a lot of the time, as you're doing a punch or a kick, it's like it gets boring. Like you feel it's just so repetitive. And it's the same when you do a play as well, or you just repeat always the same words, and it has to be at the same place, and the same person is responding the same way to you, and you're kind of like, can he say that this way this time? Because I don't like the way he says that. I don't like what the director is asking me to do, but I still have to go there, right? Well, the thing with martial arts is that, and I've been able to kind of add into it, is like using more my imagination and thinking of like when I'm moving or when I'm doing something that is not just a move per se to hit, but there's maybe sound to it. There may be color. There may be like I'm fighting like giants, and I love to play with that with people. You know, think that your punch is not just a punch, but it's an arrow. You know, and visualize this. But yeah, I think there is definitely a lot of there's a lot of similarities in all art forms.
So you went from Uganda when you did that movie as an extra. You went straight to you went back to Switzerland.
I went back to Switzerland, and I still had 2 more years to finish my school, my studies.
Did you do it? Did you finish it?
I did, yeah, I did, because I was because I didn't believe in myself, you know, and I'm struggling with believing in myself now. You know, I'm not gonna lie, it's hard. There is constantly moments where I'm like. And I feel almost right now at this place I am in my life, I feel like I'm almost having to put deadlines now. And I did that, you know, when I started studying acting in New York at Stella Adler, which is a fantastic school. And
so you went from Switzerland, you finished school, and then you went to New York to do Stella Adler? No,
so I went to Switzerland, I finished school, and then I worked in Moldova in the field of human trafficking, countering human trafficking.
Wow.
For a big organization, and then worked there. And then came back to Switzerland, and then felt, you know, and then came back to Montreal to visit my friends, and my cousin was living there at the time, and that's where I started being, you know, that's where like kind of life brought me, for me, as I see it, like those signs that no, you have to follow your dream. And I was with my cousin Babak at his place with his girlfriend at the time, and he had stopped whatever he was doing to just focus on acting, and they were like acting books on the table, and they were going to auditions, and were telling me their stories. And then I went to New York, and I stayed with a friend of them who was studying at the neighborhood playhouse, and I went to her theater school, and we had dinner, and she told me all about her classes. And as I heard all those stories, it just kind of fired me up.
It was your sign.
Yeah, it fired me up, and I came back to Switzerland, and I was unemployed, and to be honest, also there's something that is really interesting that I've been noticing, and other people have been saying, and a lot of people saying those also empowering talk or whatever, is like almost a lot of time have to do something that you would never do, or like take a risk, right? Like when I went to Canada, I was unemployed. So what happens in Switzerland, and I don't know if it's the same in the US, but when you're unemployed, you're still kind of working. You're working to find a job, right? And you have to prove that, and they look at it to all the places you went and brought your resume and all that. But they also take into consideration that you need some time off for yourself as well. So you gain certain days as vacation days, holiday days. And it got to a point where it's like my counselor was saying, you have to use those days now, or you're gonna lose them, right? And I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm gonna go on vacation when I don't have a job, right?
That's Switzerland for you.
Yeah, like if you that's why a lot of people want to come to Switzerland. So I was like, what should I do? And I decided to go back to Moldova, where I had such a really powerful and challenging experience fighting human trafficking, to visit my friends and my coworkers at the time, because like nobody goes back there unless you have a reason usually, or you're married to somebody or whatever. And it was great. And then I was like, where's the other place that I want to go back? And because before that, I just used to kind of want to travel around the world and discover new places. And I was like, I want to go back to Canada. And at the time, my cousin was in Montreal, which was a city that I really, really love. And I was like, let me go back there. And that suddenly it kind of started shaking my whole world. And I came back to Switzerland, and then I was like watching interviews of actors and hearing about their journey. And I was like, why haven't gone to an acting class when I just wanted so bad? And I was scared. I was scared, really. I was like working at a corporate job that I hated, with my suit and the car that I borrowed from my mom, and I was in the car scared to go to this class. because I was like, I hope it's going to be as much as I expected it. That is what I want. You know, it was in Lausanne, yeah, in Switzerland.
So you took your first class in Switzerland?
I took my first class in Lausanne, and I had a blast. It was an improvisation class, and I had a blast. And I was like, there is something I need to look into. And so the same thing that happened as well with same thing that happened as well also with what I want to say here in Los Angeles as well. Like there was a time where I had like struggling, you know, friends would bring me like tuna cans, and I could like, I counted, I had my one coffee $1 a day, and that's like 5 years ago, and now I'm like spending $6 sometimes. I'm not saying like, yeah, I'm so rich, but I'm like, yeah, man, like 5 years ago I was like, I could go like to some of the supermarket and get my little coffee for $1 a day, and I was a receptionist at Starline Tours and answering the phone and say, yes, what you can do if you want, yeah, go to, you know, Disneyland. And I had no idea. I didn't know much about LA at the time.
So how long you been in LA? 5 years?
5 years. And and then at the time, my girlfriend was living in Japan. She was singing in Japan, and we had this long distance relationship. And I said, same way. I said, you know what? I need to go and visit her. I need to go and see her. And my job at the time was like, if you cannot leave during Christmas. And I was like, I don't care, I'm going. So I lost my job. I had to borrow money to go to Japan to see her. I came back, I had no job, I had no place to stay. I was living with a friend of mine in his like studio apartment, 1 bedroom. We're like 3 friends in the living room. I was like on the couch with a good friend of mine, funny Italian guy, and then the other one has an air mattress or whatever for a couple of weeks. And then boom, suddenly the phone rang, and someone was offering me a position at a restaurant, at a French restaurant, and it changed my life. So a lot of those things, and I heard that, and you still hear it all the time. Like, yeah, it's all a patience game, no matter what. But there is an element also of taking a risk and trusting what life. Trusting life. But there is that element that is for sure. I think for me, it's always been a battle, and I think that's why I've also fell in love with martial arts. Is this fight, mostly with myself. And a lot of the time, if I see myself harshly and I have a hard time with myself, then the world is harsh and mocking me and not with me and this and that. And if I just able to tap more into a loving part of me and just that, then I can see the same. The reflection happens as well.
Right. That's very Buddhist of you. Buddhism says that.
However spiritual, Buddhist, religious, whatever you want to say. It's true,
The environment reflects your state of mind, not the other way around.
Oh yeah, completely. And I've experienced that also in acting. It's like that's why also a lot of time those plays or those stories, they're all pretty much the same. But it's like just a matter of like perception and. Yeah. Looking back, are you proud of yourself? Do you feel like thank God I took the risk? Because the definition of courage is fearing something and doing it anyway, right? It's not the absence of fear. Like we all are scared of stuff. But can you say like, I'm glad I took the jump, because you could now, I'm sure, still live in Switzerland, very safe and comfortable in your environment, working or not working, because apparently even unemployment sounds pretty fun. There's going to be a massive immigration to Switzerland happening after your interview.
Should I want to go?
It's a great question. No, I am. I don't necessarily notice and acknowledge it all the time.
Right.
But I don't think I would, I think I would be very, I would be very resentful if I hadn't really taken that step. And it's been, For sure. Like I can tell, like in terms of like the experiences that I've had, and you know, being in a different country, whether it's New York or LA, I mean, it's the same country but in different side, or traveling as well. I mean, all those experiences for sure open you up, and I love. I mean, when I've in a way being away for a while, sometimes I feel more Swiss than I felt before, which is a little weird. But I think
people get very patriotic once they leave. No, it's like, oh, especially Italians when they go abroad, they're like, oh, the food is shit. It's much better in Italy, and all of a sudden they're all about Italy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you came on a vacation. I mean, you asked for it.
It happens a lot. Yeah, it is crazy. It happens a lot. But when I go back, I think I definitely see. I see all the other things that I've gained, and all the different layers that I've explored, and about myself. I think the challenge sometimes being abroad is finding, because I think we all are some kind of like, you can use different images, but I like the image of a tree. I love trees, and as you have your roots, you know, your roots come from where you grew up, from your background, from your family. Sometimes they're beautiful roots, and sometimes they're harsh and they're tough, you know. But somehow you have to grow, and as you grow, you add things from also all the people you encounter, and the experiences you gather, and the things you go through. And so for me, a lot of times I feel that I forget, I lose track sometimes a little bit of where I'm coming from, and that's, I think, where I get into those spirals of being confused or doubting or fearful.
Also recognizing how far you come, probably, no? Because we're so fast to dismiss our.
But I think the thing that is hard is like sometimes you just you wish things would move faster. Or you think. Or you have those ideas that at this age I should be there, or at this I should have done that.
Yeah.
When I started acting at the time, I was like 24, 25. I thought, all right, by 35, I have to succeed. If not, that's it.
Right.
And then after some point, and I feel like I'm like that with a lot of things. Like I make some rules, and then I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me switch that little rule. Like, I don't really, it doesn't work with me anymore. And sometimes it's a little way of like trying to avoid it a lot of the time. But there's like moments where also I was like, no, it's not about success. It's not necessarily about getting this and this and that. It's more about being happy with myself, and feeling like I'm enjoying my art, and I'm growing, you know. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm still pursuing, and I'm still living this dream, because I see that I feel it's kind of like it's kind of a lens that keeps being polished more and more, and then you see more things, you know. And I love that as well. Like when you could be in some places, and then somebody look at it, and you're like, oh wow, I've been in this place like so many times. I've never seen that. There was this thing on the.
That's true. Do you have any advice for somebody who might be in your position that you were, you know, some years ago back in Switzerland, thinking maybe I should or should not take that class? Do you feel like you want to say something like, you know, absolutely jump into the cold water and just see if you can swim, or do you say don't do anything, stay where you're at?
Don't stay home.
Don't leave your unemployment. It's good.
I think for sure it's important. I think it's important to follow your guts and your instinct, and I like, even though I don't necessarily do it all the time, I think it's important to to challenge yourself and to go and try things that you don't know, you're uncomfortable, you have judgment or ideas about. Because like you said, you know, depending on your mindset, depending on the people you're with, it can be a total different experience. And that's also to say, if you try something, don't necessarily say, oh, like this is shit, this is not for me, right? You might not be with the wrong person as well. Like a teacher is super important with any art form, anything that you learn. So for sure, like there's some actors that are fantastic for, you know, improv, but TV is not for them. Or there are other actors that it's just like, want to do, you know, action flicks or whatever. It depends. Like there's not like, you're not supposed to necessarily love it all, you know.
Oh, I see what he's saying.
But I
find
think
your niche.
Yeah,
find your niche.
But I think it's important to, you know, you have with respect to others, to any chances you get to empower yourself or really like say something or declare, whether it's to the universe, to the people, to your family, things that you want and you're interested and you like, I think is important, because it kind of gives you a direction. And then it's okay, you can change, you know. You can say, hey, I'm interested in that, and then some people say, oh, you should never do that, you know. Then it's like, no. And then try to, if some people are trying to stop you, try to understand where they're coming from, why they're saying that, but still try to also to kind of stick. You have to stick also a little bit. I think there is an element for me. I feel like I'm in a generation, you know, being born before the millennials and all that, and not having necessarily growing up with a phone and computer and all that. I've learned, and that's one of the reasons why I finished international relations, and I don't feel like, oh, I wasted, I could have used those 2 years to be a better actor or to break in, and now it's too late. I don't necessarily see like that, but I think there's an element of sticking a little bit with something, and not just trying it for a little bit and say, you know what? And so that's one of the advice that I would say is that don't be afraid to voice the thing that interests you and the things that you're curious. Go for it, search, explore it, and then if it's not for you, it's not for you. Sometimes you know right away, but if you're not sure, whatever, just open yourself up and try to see, because like for me, like I didn't see myself being an actor in France or in Switzerland, right? So what did I do? I decided, you know what, I love English. Let me go and try to make it in the US. At first I went to Canada, and then from Canada I went to New York and then to LA. And a lot of people will tell you the opposite. And to be honest with you, like I now with my experience, I would tell you, yeah, it is easier for you and to act in your own language than to act in another language. It's the truth. But at the same time, you have to follow your guts. And if your guts is like, you know what, it doesn't excite me to act in French. It doesn't excite me what is being produced in France. Then, yeah, okay, if you have the ways to go to somewhere else, another country, and act in another language, do it. But also, there's also maybe, you can still maybe act in France and in French, but do something different. Or surround yourself by some other people and create stuff that you like, rather than, because at the same time, you know, for me, coming here to the US, you never, whatever your challenge, whatever you have to face, no matter where you go, you're going to have to face it.
Yes. Because
for me, coming here to the US and saying, you know what, I love American cinema and I love English language, and I feel more comfortable exploring acting with English and with all the history of English playwriting, screenwriting. I got to the place also of like feeling trapped, or feeling like you're saying, asking me how many opportunities. Like I was at the Mill Valley Film Festival and someone was like, oh, I'm sure like right now you're working a lot. And I'm like, no, I'm not, you know? And so there's still like that element where it's gonna be no matter where you go, it doesn't mean you're going to have more chances or more opportunity or more roles.
Yeah.
For you probably will have to also find out what's your voice and what do you think you have something else to say, and who can collaborate and help you move towards sharing those stories that you care and that are meaningful to you. And I'm just talking to myself right now, pretty much. You know?
No, I was going to ask you, I just wanted to see if we have enough time. I'm going to ask you one more question because we went a little bit over time. But do you feel like you have a mission as an artist? Like, do you feel like you want to use it as a voice to bring change or to bring awareness, or do you just do it because this is just your passion, that's it? Do you feel like a little bit of a greater, because artists have such a wonderful way of affecting thousands of people with their work, right? Whereas if you have a, more of a corporate job or something, sometimes it doesn't really affect more than your office or your friends and family and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But as an artist, you really have much broader audience.
Right.
And you can really make a huge difference, as many of them do. Do you feel like you want that? Do you feel like you have that craving?
I do. I do for sure. Now, how I put it into place and how I apply it, it's another story, and I feel it's still kind of like it comes and goes. But definitely, like, there is an element where, for me, I feel like as performing, whether it's on stage, on film, I do kind of like affect, hopefully, somehow people. But I feel there is an element where definitely I believe that the art has a greater responsibility and need to be shared and targeted towards people in need. Because the problem a lot of the time is like plays or whatever, or mainstream TV is like, it doesn't, it's just, not everybody can afford it. Like when you go to the opera, it's super expensive. If you want to go see a play, it's expensive. All those things. So there is like a lot of like situation, whether it's people struggling with drug abuse, whether it's self-esteem, mental illnesses, whether it's prison, a lot of a situation where you can really empower people to find their voice, to find joy, to connect. And I think that's an element where there's a lot of need, and I've had the chance a little bit to do it through workshops in jail, which has been probably my favorite experience so far. But I'm not doing it, and I just need I've been like feeling more and more that need to get back to it, and find like other people, organization to collaborate and participate through acting workshops or writing workshops or things like that. So I think for sure there's an element, but I think also there is a journey, and sometimes it's okay. Sometimes you need to focus on yourself, sometimes but once you get a chance whenever you get a chance to be of service, I think it's always very powerful for yourself and for your art.
That's beautiful.
So yeah,
I think giving back is really important. It kind of feeds your soul too.
Yeah, because also like you never do anything by yourself. You always need the help of others for anything that you do, and so I think I think there is an element where you feel like somehow you have. But it's often like the problem is like you feel like, oh, I'm giving myself by not being paid for this project, or by working for this friend of mine who believes that wants to do this project here or there, and that's still very much for you. You know what I'm saying? You're doing it also because you're getting something out of it, and you're you're experiencing, you're practicing all that stuff. It's another thing to just kind of like, you know, to be really of service where you just, everything is targeted towards someone in need. And I think that's very important.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I know that you literally just stepped off the airplane. Literally, you just got off the airplane.
Got off the airplane. Yeah,
so
but it's like an hour trip. So it's
still,
not like
it's
I'm
just like I'll be right there to do this for you. So
no,
thank you so much. It's really
pleasure.
wonderful. You're so amazing, and I wish you all the best. And
You're amazing.
much success for your, what's it called? So you think you should.
So you think you can dance? So you think you got it? No, it's called.
Wait, wrong actor.
It's called Show Me What You Got.
Show Me What You
and
Got.
It's directed by a fantastic director, cinematographer, Svetlana Svetko, and very well edited by David Scott Smith, who's also a producer in it. And we have a fantastic executive producer, Philip Norris, and another producer.
Is this your Oscar speech?
Yes, and an amazing actors, and blah blah blah, and blah blah blah. Stop it.
I want to thank everybody who lost. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're gonna cut it. Are you good with that? You want to say any last words?
No.
Okay, no last words.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Good to have you. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.